Chapter 22. Light is never given while we fear the dark. When dawn came, the army of liberation drew their swords and began the advance. They marched in silence toward the enemy columns stationed by the wall. Elan, in the saddle of a Vulcan, laden with the ore of death, advanced to meet the enemy. His bridled reptile released the canisters. Fire fell everywhere. But the army of liberation marched on. Elan feared. The unbridled Vulcans flew again to the armory and returned to hurl more fire. The heat grew so intense that the forests near the plains of Man ignited. Sheets of flame swept in waves across the land and licked the base of the fortress walls. It looked as if the entire globe would burn. Elan made a tactical error. He decided that the singer must be killed to stop the onslaught. Astride the great dragon, Elan dived toward Light Raider, who did not bolt. Giant claws grasped for the troubadour, but could not sweep him from his horse. Then suddenly, the Vulcan looked toward the sky and screamed. Ansan closed on him. The Golden Knight recalled a ploy he had used in earlier attacks and sliced through the canister which Elan's dragon grasped. Fire engulfed both beast and rider. As the saddle girth collapsed and the searing flame rushed over him, Elan wailed in terror. In separate moments, yet almost one, Emperor and Vulcan hit the earth. Two Vulcans remained. One wheeled and confronted winged Invictrix in the air. Wildly, its 6 great talons ripped the air. Invictrix barely kept beyond the reach of all its savage claws. Each way the horse flew, the beast turned in the air to face Ansand and the fight. The roaring Vulcan almost deafened those below. The reptile opened its deadly jaws to grasp the horse's wings. Below the screaming skies, the battle ranks began to close. Along a 100-mile front, sword clashed on shield. The wail of dying men continued through the day. Above the din of war echoed the cries of dragons in the air. By afternoon, the Vulcan had begun to tire. Invictrix circled it until the sun fell full into the monster's face. The reptile's glazed eyes spoke its death ahead of time. Its wing beats slowed, and finally it settled toward the earth. It could not rise, although it longed to do so. Invictrix and her rider watched the beast descend. It hovered for a moment above the thickest combat. Then fell the few remaining feet. The men of Eleanor moved back to give the dragon dying space. Its great leather wings fluttered like a crippled gull. Its claws dug into the bloody earth among the corpses of the fallen soldiers. It whimpered, groaned, and gasped, then died. The dragon's slow, painful death unnerved the men of Eleanor. They had reason to fear. Elan was dead. Terra was aflame, and the fire had spread to the capital. The gates were now ablaze. Ansan turned to the final Vulcan. The beast, knowing it was the last, had lost its heart for war. It would not fly. It perched like a great stone gargoyle on the palace armory, where the canisters of death ore were stacked in pyramids. As Invictrix flew close, the Vulcan toppled backward, scattering the deadly piles. It could not fold its wings. Spasms shook its ugly head. Froth poured above its forked tongue. Seized by desire to end its existence, it brought a merciful conclusion to the war. Grasping a canister, the Volcan tore the frail shell until it burst. In an instant, fire shot high. The whole armory detonated. Flame, growing in intensity, collected in a golden ball and settled on the city. Terra was ablaze. Hate's final grudge against Earthmaker's love was Holocaust. Dreamer turned Avenger struggled to find the Prince of Mirrors in the burning city. He was confused by all the flame. The streets were filled with the fallen, and the buildings were in ruins. He sought the stable where the Dark Prince had sharpened his weapon for the conflict. A cloud of dense smoke blew across the small lane where Dreamer walked. A burning timber crashed ahead of him and exploded in a shower of sparks, whose light was smothered by soot and darkness. He fought the smoke, and shielding his face against the heat, he stumbled through the hot mist. When Dreamer drew his arm back to breathe, the Prince of Mirrors stood directly in the burning way. The hater grinned and drew his sword. Chapter 23. Materiality. A blessing all its own. Spirit demons play in fire, hoping for cremation. In the terror of their immortality, they envy dying men. In the days prior to the liberation, Dreamer would have been terrified by the leering hater. Now he was amazed that the aggressor's grin left him unafraid. The hater's sword was twice the size of his, but he drew his own blade and stepped the thirsty distance to his foe. The hater swung. Then the smaller swordsman hurled his steel in a direct arc that would have hit the hater's armor. The sound of clanging steel resounded through the street. Each stalked the other. Again their blades resounded as Dreamer slowly weakened. Suddenly Ansan bolted through the smoke, calling to the hater, "Come, leave the Dreamer. Your wounded shoulder still seeps my grudge." "Not before I finish with this miner," the Prince of Mirrors cried. He followed his defiance with a question. "Is Elan dead?" "The planet's dead," cried Ansand, "and Elan with it. He fell in flame from a slaughtered Volcan." "He died wearing my face," mused the world hater. "But no matter, I have his." "Terra died because it wore your face," Ansand interrupted. Gesturing to the flames, the hater cried, "Look, Ansand, I have laid to rest the Earthmaker's hope and smashed his finest work of art. Behold the power of hate!" He laughed. Dreamer watched the unfolding conflict. Suddenly he was dazzled by blinding intensity. Light Raider bolted through the wall of flame. Ashes formed whirlwinds beneath his hooves. The singer came. "It is your final moment," called the singer. "Perhaps," the Dark Prince said. "The planet burns and the flames spread. Perhaps the seas themselves shall erupt in flame," he laughed. "Indeed they will," the troubadour agreed. "Hate sometimes has a fiery end before it is absorbed in love." The old antagonists faced each other as the troubadour continued. "My father's spirit loved this place and the men that he made to live here. Now," he seemed choked by the declaration, "now both his world and men are gone." "I told you I would win," sneered the world hater. "I warned you at the wall. The fight was fair. Now see the ash can of your artistry. You have not won. Look. Ansan sent his mount through the wall of flame. The fire fell back. Low in the night sky flew Terra too. It had grown since it floated upward from the saddle shelf a few hours earlier. The troubadour smiled. In only 3 hours comes the midnight of this planet. Terra 1 will die. But even as it falls, the sky will be filled with the growing hope of Terra 2. It is a world that you will never enter, World Hater. You cannot kill me, nor control me. I go to any world I wish. I once brought a civil war to Lifeland itself. Have you forgotten? The Prince of Mirrors sneered at the World Hater, at the world growing above the flames. Invictrix soared abruptly back through the flames and settled suddenly. Surprised, the Dark Prince stumbled backward and fell ingloriously to the charred ground. He looked up at Ansan, who trailed a long chain of heavy links. Light Raider pawed the earth, and it opened in an awesome rift. From the great scar, the Hater could hear the moaning from the canyon of the damned. No! No! Cried the World Hater. The Singer leapt from Light Raider. The ancient struggle began again in fury. Hate tore at love for the remaining hours. Terra, too, loomed larger and larger until it filled the sky. Close to midnight, the World Hater, in desperation, flung his sword at the troubadour. The Golden Knight now entered into the struggle. He grasped the discarded sword and wielded it to split away the Hater's torn and dented armor. Evil stood naked. Ansan knew he could not put an end to the evil prince with the sword, for they had both been made to live forever. So he took the chain and wound it round the Hater's wounded body. The Hater cursed the Singer and his Golden Knight and poured his scorn on Terra too. Dreamer beheld the final moments of the ancient struggle. The World Hater would live forever, but never move again. He would hate, but never enter Terra 2. Invictrix nudged him toward the great rift. Over and over he rolled. At the edge of the crevasse, Invictrix nudged him once more. He tumbled into the abyss and plummeted away. The ground closed. Dreamer followed Ansan and the troubadour back to the waiting army. The soldiers, like himself, were all unharmed. The war of fire was over. The Singer led the army of liberation back upon the skyway. At midnight, the two worlds collided. Terra 1 split away and then dissolved. Terra 2 rolled on in youth. Chapter 24. An old astronomer clasped his protege and said, "If Polaris dies tonight, be assured some greater light will take its place." Ansan guided his mount above the mountain range. He saw the spires of the city of the troubadour, a lovely city without walls, for walls, though not forbidden, were forgotten. In worlds where evil has not come, walls never come to mind. Invictrix skimmed a sunlit tower and flew down to the plaza where the children played. The steed alighted. Ansan walked through an arched portal and saw the Singer sitting with his lyre. He saw Ansan and rose to meet him. The two embraced. Earthmaker is sovereign love, said Ensemble. The music of the universe, agreed the troubadour. Halana to the Father Spirit, cried the Golden Knight. Come with me, the singer said. They walked to the Plaza of Peace. In the center of the square, a sphere of bright, transparent glass rested on one crystal's very point. In the center of the sphere was a world about the size that Terra 2 had been the day she rode into the final battle of the War of Fire. It is Terra 1, a replica exact and scaled, the singer said. Forever sealed? Inquired Ensemble. Forever, agreed the troubadour. And we can never hear the anguish from its center? The Golden Knight seemed troubled. Never. There shall be silence where the Dark Prince writhes in chains. He is small indeed to live in such a tiny world as this. He is a dwindling point of death within a growing universe of joy. Come, said the singer. They walked again. Soon they came to a grand reliquary on a distant ivory causeway. There was a cube of glass, and deep within a replica of the great machine of death. Why keep this? Ensemble asked. It was the only hope of Terra 1. Those who walk this newer world are here because I chose to die down there between the gears and ropes. What was it like to die? The Golden Knight asked. Be grateful, you shall never have to know. The troubadour looked thoughtfully away. When it was over, I held a new relationship with men. Even Terra 1 died. Death does not matter. The singer gestured to the glistening world of Terra 2. Dying is not final, only life. Ensemble looked at the scars of death still marking the prince's hands. You are the singer, prince, and troubadour. There was music all around them in the air. They sang the star song, and far above the crystal chair, their music drifted outward on the universe. Earthmaker viewed the sculptured dignity of man, godlike and strident, president of everything that is, content to be his intimate and only earthen friend. Alana. And that is the end of the Singer Trilogy and the end of the finale. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace.